he got there. Like you said, Gary, you were there with him.
Yeah, I was there 1 year with him.
All right, fellas, we're live with another episode of Talking Preps. We got a teammate that's off in the back, not quite ready yet. But the one thing I've been hearing all week, Sam, is everybody wants to know who won the tennis match. Now, you can't give it away. Can't give it away. Oh, Chris is
Chris went got a
There we go. Yeah. There we go. Let's go.
David had to be.
That's amazing.
That's gonna be pretty cool.
Everybody wanted to see it. So we're gonna have results from the tennis match. We're gonna have all kind of fun stuff. We got Earnest Winston in the back. We got a huge show. We got Kinsey. Guys, this may be the most loaded show we've ever had.
I always love that intro. That's pretty good.
Fired up.
All right, we're going to bring in the man, Earnest Winston, CMS Superintendent. How are you, sir?
I am doing well, gentlemen. How are you all tonight?
Well, thanks
Fantastic.
for coming on with us. Sam said he never met you before, so before we put him in the back room, we want to give you guys a chance to digitally say hello to each other.
Well, it's good to connect faces with names. You hear about all these superstars out here, so Sam, it's good to see you.
I'm a hat.
And Gary and I, so too does Langston. We've got a little history here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I commend you, man. You came straight from the classroom and you worked your way up the right way, and I think that represents teachers really well. And so I'm excited to work for you. Really am.
Well, thank you,
all
Sam.
Right, Sam. We're gonna put you back in purgatory for a little while, Sam. We'll bring you back a little bit.
Sounds good.
Ernest, I wanted to ask you. This has been a tough couple of months for you, running one of the nation's largest school systems. Your first year on the job. Before we kind of get into all the COVID stuff, has anything surprised you so far, year one, and what are you kind of looking forward to do next?
Well, the next imminent thing to do is to successfully open schools. And so I know that's on everybody's radar. And I will tell you that, I've talked to superintendents who have been in the business for 10, 20, 30 years. And to a person, they've all said, we've never encountered anything like this. So, I reach out to them to get best practices and to have a thought partner, because we're all trying to do this together, and we're trying to do it well in what is a very trying environment where the floor is constantly moving from beneath us. Things are changing on a daily, if not hourly basis. And, at the end of the day, our goal is to make sure that we educate all of our kids well, but we want to do so in an environment that's safe for kids and for staff members as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What's been the toughest part just with dealing with the pandemic, and what are your concerns for students and teachers as we go into school this fall?
The toughest challenge in dealing with the pandemic has probably been, just trying to take in all of the feedback that you get from students, and our students have articulated their positions very well. Going back to the spring, and let me just talk about our seniors in particular, because when they started last school year, they had no inkling that they would not experience a normal senior year, one with no prom, no senior nights, and then the graduation ceremony experience was completely different from anything they've envisioned. So just helping our students understand that, we're going through times that are different, but different doesn't diminish, your overall experience. And so listening to our parents, of course, our parents range in terms of how this pandemic is impacting their ability to work, as well as be able to homeschool their children, as we've all had to do over the past several months. And then you also have staff concerns as well, and those are very valid. All of those concerns are very valid. And so trying to balance the different constituencies and the concerns that they bring. But at the end of the day, knowing that it is my goal, it is my team's goal to make sure that we are making sure that staff and students are being educated and are working in as safe an environment as possible. So we can't compromise on that.
Yeah. And I guess, this being a sports show, one of the big questions on everybody's mind is CMS is going to remote learning. In your mind, Ernest, do you think a remote learner can then play sports? Would that be okay?
Langston, can you repeat that? Did you say, well, I'll let you repeat that for me if you could.
Yeah. A lot of people want to know, since CMS is going remote learning, would you be okay with remote learners playing sports?
Well, that would be a challenge. So all of us, and as recently as a few hours ago, was reading some emails from, parents who had expressed concern about, whether or not we were going to have fall sports. And, we certainly appreciate the concerns and the thoughts that parents and all members of our community have when it comes to our students, and in this particular situation, our student athletes. There's a lot of disappointment around the decision to postpone the athletic activity on our campuses this summer. And then we also know that there's the uncertainty around the fall sports season. And so we continue to await guidance from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, and we anticipate that within the next several weeks, they may come out with some guidance. And then also the governor, hopefully prior to that, will make an announcement in regards to the state being in phase 2. These are painstaking decisions that impact all of us, and we do not reach any of these decisions lightly. So we will have to await that guidance before we make a determination on whether to move forward with fall sports.
Ernest, good to see you again. We go back a long way, and I'm happy that you came up the right way from the classroom all the way to the top of CMS, and I'm very happy for you, and you coming in under some tough situations, but I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Gary.
My question to you is, last week, a lot of CMS student athletes got together and they protested about the opportunity to go back to workouts and get ready for the fall season. What impact did that have on you or the school board or other higher ups within the system?
Thank you for that question, Gary. So I know that, in addition to myself, other members of the district's leadership team watched that event very closely. And Gary, I would, I would like to say that students did what we taught them to do. They saw an issue that they're very passionate about. They used their voice to provide some advocacy, for themselves, and they did it the right way. It was peaceful, and students articulated their stance on this. And as I mentioned before, this is not easy, and so I applaud our students for utilizing their voice. A couple of weeks ago, our board chairperson, Elise Dashew, and myself, we spent a few hours on a Zoom meeting with several of our student leaders, and we heard their position on everything that was impacting their education. And so those are the type of things that we want to see. And if students, frankly, were silent on the issue, I'd probably be a little bit disappointed. But what they did was they took an opportunity to talk about the benefits of athletics. And we know that high school athletics, we're not the only entity dealing with this. We see it in the professional ranks. So we're all deal with this during this particular pandemic.
According to the Charlotte Observer and the Raleigh News and Observer, over half the state has opted to go to remote learning, including a third of CMS students. The CDC has recommended in-person learning for students. So who's right here, the school systems or the CDC?
Well, Gary, that's a great question, and I would maintain that there is no right answer. There absolutely is no right answer. I think you have to take the information that you have at your disposal, but then I think you also have to look at, what are your goals? Is your goal to educate every child well and in a successful manner? And if that's the case, then you have to look back and say, well, what do I need to do in order to make that happen? We need to make sure that we provide all of our students with the tools and the resources that they need to be educated well in this remote environment. So there is no right answer, and that was one of the things that I have learned early on in my tenure as superintendent. You cannot make a decision that you are trying to please everybody involved. So all constituents, inevitably, you're going to upset some people. But I don't think it should be the goal. The measurement of success is not making everyone happy. But when I lay my head down at night on the pillow, I have to be able to rest comfortably knowing that I made a decision that was in the best interest of the safety of our students and our staff, and that will allow them to get a solid and a robust education.
Some parents don't understand the purpose of bringing kids in for the first 2 weeks of the school year and then going to remote learning. Could you explain to the public why CMS felt it necessary to bring the kids in for the first 2 weeks of the semester?
Absolutely, Gary, and I'm glad you asked that question. And so, first of all, I think it's important to just name this right away. I would never ask another parent in CMS to do something that I am not willing to do myself. And of course, what I mean by that is that I am a father of 2 students in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, and we have made the decision to participate in the model that falls under the Plan B plus remote model, so that at some point when the district does go back to Plan B, then our 2 students, our girls, will be rotating in and out of the classroom along with other students. The students who participate in the full remote academy, what their parents have said is that we do not want our students to go into a brick and mortar building. And that is a choice that every family has had to make. And so I think you alluded to the fact that about a third of our student population has opted for the full remote academy. One thing that I know for sure is that when we closed our doors on March the 13th, we did so very suddenly, and we did not have an opportunity to really prepare our students to be successful completely in a remote learning environment. We have that opportunity now going into this upcoming school year, and we're going to do that in a manner that is very safe. And that, so I want to assure our staff members, I want to assure our students that we're going to do that in a safe manner. But it's important, when I talked earlier about what does success look like. We know that unfortunately in the spring, when we pivoted to that full remote environment, we didn't have an opportunity to prepare all of our students for success. And what do I mean by that? We have an opportunity during the first 2 weeks of schools to make sure that our students have had an opportunity to connect with their teachers, but also make sure that they get all of their packets, their resources, get their computers. If there are issues, make sure that we're able to fix their computers, but really, connect with their other classmates and their teachers so that when we do move to a full remote environment, we have already established, those things that are important for students to be successful long term. It would be our expectation to, as quickly as possible, move into Plan B, if you will, from a all remote model. But we don't know what the conditions will look like here and if the numbers will move in a positive direction. So now that we have the opportunity to do so in a very safe environment, we want to take advantage of it. And with about a third of our students moving to or opting for the full remote academy, that means that there will be fewer students who will have to rotate during those first 2 weeks into the school on a 3 or 4 day period. So it's something that we continue to monitor and we're very cognizant of, and we want to do all we can to make sure that all kids and staff members are safe.
Well, good evening again, Ernest, and thanks again for joining us here tonight. And I'm going to go back to Gary's question because I like the response you gave in regards to the students and the parents into that first 2 week question. But I have heard from some teachers who are also concerned that there's no real concrete plans for how things will operate in regards to them for those first 2 weeks when they return to class. When do you think the teachers can expect some more answers on how those first 2 weeks will work?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I will tell you that, in an environment, and I get it, everyone, rightfully so, we want to know what the answers are right away. And I completely get it. Sometimes we have not been able to come up with those answers as quickly as we would like. But as soon as we get information, we are getting that to our building level leaders, our principals, and our school administrators. Just today, our leadership team had a meeting and we talked about the first 2 days of school, August 6th and August 7th, when our teachers will immerse themselves in our new learning management platform called Canvas. And that really is a tool that teachers and families will utilize to stay connected with each other, to stay in touch. Canvas will allow our families to email principals and vice versa, their teachers, I should say, to check on the status of their child. It'll also allow families to check on assignments that students were given. Did the student turn in his or her assignment? It's a very neat tool. And we're excited about our teachers, being provided some professional development around our Canvas platform, and we'll have those same opportunities for our families as well. But when we talk about the professional development that will happen when teachers return, to the school building, it's things like that they will be learning that help set students up for success throughout the school year.
Well, I've been using Canvas for a while through some college work. I've been doing some coursework, and it is very easy. So I think it'll come as a welcome addition to a lot of schools out there. But in addition to that, I've been a former coach, and I'm always trying to advocate for coaches in this state. High school coaches and CMS get an extra month's pay, head coaches that is, for the work. And they end up working more hours than they're ever paid anyway. But we've heard that coaches are not getting their summer pay, at least as of yet. Is that going to happen? And what's the status with that?
So thank you for that. One of the things that I know has been taking place, with our high school coaches, with our student athletes, are the virtual workouts. And so it would be my expectation as we continue down that path. And that's something that we want to encourage because I know that student athletes and coaches have very strong connections with one another. And so that's something we don't want to deprive our students of, even though we're in a remote environment. So it would be my expectation as we move forward and those voluntary virtual workouts continue, that we would be able to compensate our coaches.
Ernest, like everyone else, thank you for being on with us tonight. And this first question actually is going to roll right off of what Chris was just talking to you about. The NCHSAA has authorized workouts for schools. The question that a lot of coaches around here are asking is why can they not work out? What guidance do you think you need from the NCHSAA to maybe allow them to move forward and start working out?
So thank you for that question. I appreciate that. What we have seen locally is that the numbers have not been moving in the right direction. And so we have committed that we will allow that process to begin as soon as we feel like it is safe for students to be able to work out voluntarily, as well as coaches, because coaches have to be there as well. So in terms of the guidance from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, one of the things that we are awaiting is whether or not we will have a fall sports season, or if it'll be condensed, or exactly what that will look like. And so until we're able to get that guidance and we hear from the governor whether he plans to stay in phase 2 for the state, or if we will move to another phase, I think all of those factors will help inform our decision. But above all, first and foremost, we don't want to bring our student athletes back. And I understand it's voluntary, but certainly we want to do so and bring them back when we feel it is safe to do so.
So I'm gonna take privilege and ask one more question based on that. And you said that the numbers are high, as we know here in Mecklenburg County. Do you have a metric that says go, no go? That's one of the things that I hear from coaches is we don't know what the plans are and what are they looking at. So do you have a go, no go that when it drops to this point, we can move forward, or is that something you could share?
So Dale, thank you for raising that. You may recall at our Board of Education meeting last week that one of the feedback that the board provided to me and staff is that we would like to be able to have a set of metrics that we can use to determine whether we should move from one phase to another phase. And so we have launched or announced that we're going to create a medical advisory team that will be comprised of leadership at our public health department, as well as our private healthcare providers. We will have district staff from central office on that team as well. And it is the expectation that that advisory council will deliberate, and they will come back and recommend a set of metrics that we can use as part of our decision-making process. So that process is well underway. And we're working with individual schedules to determine when we can have that first meeting. But we do certainly want to be able to point to a set of metrics that we can use to make those decisions.
Thank you for that. Suppose we do not have fall sports, or we don't have sports this year. There are parents that are wondering about a gap year. And so the question would be, how would that look? What do you support such a thing? Is it possible? What could you elaborate on that? And that would be having seniors that are senior this year come back next year so that they could take part in sports that they missed this year.
So Dale, one of the things that I have learned, and I know Langston had inquired earlier. So what are some things that you have learned during your first year as superintendent? And one of the things that I have learned, and I'll be just very candid, is that you don't always have all of the answers. And so instead of making up an answer, I'm just going to be very candid with you and let you know that is something that we have not studied very closely, but it's something that we will look at. So I can't tell you at this particular point that I have an opinion on that particular scenario and what that could look like. We would have to study that a little bit more before we make a determination about that.
Yeah, I can appreciate that answer. Middle school sports, that's another area that I guess we haven't really talked a lot about, but do you see middle school being able to have sports this year?
Well, so it is our expectation that when we announce what our plans are for high school athletics, that we will do the same for middle school athletics. And we know that, our high school athletics program does significantly fund our middle school athletics. So that's a decision that we will make along with our high school decision, Dale.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ernest, the North Carolina High School Athletics Association, if they do say, okay, go ahead, let's get started with the fall sports season with limited attendance, would you expect these games to also include the cheerleaders, the letter girls, the marching band, the student trainers, the ROTC, all of these other things that go along with Friday night football?
So great question. What I can say with certainty is that if a decision is made to move forward with high school athletics, it will look very different from what I think we're all accustomed to. Just think about Major League Baseball, for example. When if you all had a chance to look at any of the games this past weekend, you noticed that there were no fans in the stadium, and things felt and looked a lot different. It is our goal to make sure that our other student athletes, and certainly I consider our cheerleaders part of that, students who are involved in extracurricular activities such as the band. It is our expectation that students will still have those opportunities. However, it may look a lot different than we are all accustomed to.
And with that limited attendance, of course, there's going to be a great loss in revenue. And we know how much football finances the other athletic programs. Would you be in favor of raising the ticket prices to say $10 as opposed to what they are now at $7?
Well, Gary, I would be hesitant to take any option off the table right now. Again, and I know it's premature. We hadn't made that decision yet, but we will definitely have to make sure that we have a solid funding source. And so to the extent that that could help us get there, I would not want to remove that option off the table as a potential funding source.
Okay, today we found out that Virginia is going to move all their athletic programs, fall, winter, and spring to second semester. Would you rather see a shortened fall sports semester or all sports move to second semester like Virginia is planning to do?
Yeah. So I think you're going to see more and more of that, Gary, in terms of districts doing, taking different measures so that there's some semblance of a fall sports season, whether it actually takes place in the fall or at some other time during the school year. And one of the things that I and the team would rely heavily upon is the feedback and the thoughts of our athletic directors. That's not a decision that I am going to make in isolation. We want to make sure that we talk to our athletic directors, our high school principals. It would be, I don't think it would be a sound decision-making process if we have not included their voice as part of that feedback loop. So we certainly would look to them and get their thoughts as part of our overall decision.
Today we saw a Major League Baseball team, the Florida Marlins. About a third of the team tested positive for COVID. And Major League Baseball had to shut down their series tonight with Baltimore, as well as the previous team that they played, the Phillies versus the Yankees. And colleges are doing a lot of testing, and the NBA has its bubble, and hockey has 3 bubbles. How would it be possible for CMS to resume sports activities with or without testing? Is testing a possibility for CMS?
Yes. So Gary, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association has come out with a set of protocols, and anything we do will certainly have to be in alignment with those protocols. And that's what makes it so challenging with regard to our student athletes and our students in general, is because, we're part of a larger society. So we're not immune to our students, our student athletes, our staff members testing positive. And so, one of the things that, we would certainly want to make sure of is that, we're following all of those protocols and guidelines that have been established in order for student athletes to be able to participate, in fall athletics. But, people ask, well, what will happen, when that occurs, if there's a positive test? And I would say that, it's not a matter of, will there be one? There will likely be a positive test somewhere. And so, we will be prepared to address it and deal with it when it occurs. But we're in a situation where there are just so many unknowns. There's a great deal of uncertainty, and we just want to make sure that we're doing what's in the best interest of safety for our students and our staff members.
Ernest, I'm glad you brought up the positive test, because it's obvious, and I think it's very certain that we're going to at least have a test come back positive at some point, and how we will react to it. And that kind of leads me to this question. Let's just say that half of the CMS coaches in the system are also teachers. I think that's probably a safe bet to assume. Do you think it's safe that we could have the contact sports? And you notice I mentioned the contact, the football, the wrestling, so on. If we did take those steps in the remote learning now, do you think that would help in keeping the kids off the campus, to keep those numbers lower, so we can have those contact sports?
So I think that could be helpful. And when my team and we talk about athletics and student athletes and coaches and what that could look like, it's really about it's very difficult to eliminate all risks. Even in a normal environment during the regular school year, we try to put as many protocols and safety measures in place to help deal with the risk, but we cannot eliminate all the risk. What we can try to do is mitigate those risks that may come up. And of course, we'll have to deal with them, as they arise. But I just wanted to be able to lift that up because I don't want anyone to believe that we're going to eliminate every risk that exists. We'll do our best to mitigate them with our safety and precautionary measures that we take, including our screening that student athletes would be required to participate in. They would be asked a set of questions and have to follow those protocols. But it's going to be very difficult to try to eliminate all the risks that exist.
And Ernest, I appreciate you being so open with us tonight and taking so much time during your evening. And I'm glad you brought up the athletics in general. I coached in Texas for a spell, and with my position, I've been able to speak with academics and superintendents and administrators such as yourself for years. And I'll lean on my time in Texas where athletics and let's just talk about football a little bit more specifically, where they thrive off of football and it supports the academics and the community and the avenues for advancement for the young student athletes. I just want to get your overall general feeling of athletics from your perspective, and not just from the administrator, from the leader of CMS, but from Earnest Winston, the fan, just how big of a sports fan you are, how much you enjoy getting out to see the athletes. I know we always seem to talk about the high schools, but the middle schoolers, just everybody in general, just want to kind of get your take on just how big of a sports fan you are.
Well, I can tell you that I am a huge sports fan. I am a former high school athlete myself. Now, let me just name this. I was nowhere near as good as you all probably were in high school, but I did play basketball in high school. And, I've got a rising seventh grader who is aspiring, if the conditions will allow us to do so, wants to try out for her middle school girls basketball team. So we're huge sports fans in our family. And I am a huge fan of not just football, but baseball and basketball. And my golf game is not as good as Langston's, but I try my best when I get out there. But I am a huge sports fan, and I will tell you, I understand the benefits and the importance of sports in our society, as a whole, and when we talk about our student athletes in particular. I understand the benefits that athletics play in the lives of our students. And I talked earlier about the connections that developed between players, but also between players and coaches. And that's real. And that's something that, we have to factor into any decision that we will ultimately make, is the overall value that athletics plays in the lives of our student athletes.
Thanks for expanding on that, because what I'm going to ask you next really, I think, drives off of some of that. I grew up in Charlotte, and I attended Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. I have 4 children that attended. This next question is about facilities, and it's kind of something that has concerned me because we fought it with when my children were at Olympic High School. Just recently, Mallard Creek got a new turf field. I know they needed it. We also had a school that was built not too long ago, Philip O'Berry, who has had a field put in since they were built. And then right up the street is a high school, Harding High School, that is still playing on a very poor field. And so facilities, there seems to be disparity in CMS. I've seen this and felt this myself. And so I'd like to get your thoughts or input on that as to, do you see a disparity and how might you address this?
So Dale, yes, that is one of the things that, disturbs me and that keeps me up at night, is not only the inequities that I see in our classroom, but also the disparities that I see when it comes to our facilities. And I think several of our teachers very clearly articulated some of those disparities at our recent school board meeting last week, when we talked about the conditions that some of our schools are in. And granted, many of our schools, the buildings are a lot older, certainly a lot older than I am, which means that the athletic facilities and all of the other things on that campus are older. And so, we recently went to voters a few years ago, and they responded overwhelmingly with a successful bond referendum that allows us to update our school facilities. And so, to the extent that we have those resources to be able to provide, those refreshment opportunities of our facilities, then we can do that. So part of the answer is that, we don't have all of the resources that we need to be able to update all of our facilities. And so that's just a reality that exists. But it still is a concern that I have, because, when I attend, football games, I have an opportunity to visit different schools and, check out the facilities. And, it's not always fair that a student in one part of town does not have the access to the same facilities that students in another part of town. And so we've got some work to do in that regard to make sure that we're providing those equitable opportunities for all of our students and our student athletes.
Thank you for that answer. Communications is very important, and communications on this particular topic is, I think, very important. So a lot of people use social media, and we wanted to ask you about that, about social media, and how can you maybe communicate more with parents, students, parents? You don't use social media. What are your thoughts there?
Well, Dale, so I do have a Twitter account that I use to communicate, with our parents, with our staff members, and our community at large. Certainly could I utilize it a little bit more than I do? Probably so. And I know that our communications team, uses a variety of social media platforms to help get the message out, because if you look at it from the standpoint when, you and I were going through school, we didn't have those platforms. We would receive messages, the teacher would probably send a note home and expect it to arrive, at the house. Sometimes that happened, sometimes it didn't. But I say all of that to say that we have a variety of mechanisms to communicate with families, including our Connect Ed system, our school's website, obviously the communications from schools to families. We have a variety of mechanisms. And so we've got to utilize all of those mechanisms, because what works for one family may not be the best way to communicate to another particular family. But Dale, I will do my best to tweet a little bit more often, and I may say something. I'll reference you in one of those tweets, Dale. But on a serious note, I completely hear what you're saying. we've got to communicate more. We've got to communicate more frequently, and our communications has to be accurate. Being in the news business, or formerly in the news business, over there with Langston, one of the things we tried to do was be the first out the gate. Well, it's a little bit of a different approach that I take now. It's not always important in my current role to be first out the gate. It's important to make sure that we have the context along with the messaging that we're trying to get out to families. That's where we are. But I will do my best, Dale, to tweet a little bit more.
Well, don't tweet as much as Grice tweets.
Hey, people got to understand. Got to communicate to the people. I love it.
Hey, Ernest, man, I appreciate you being on. I know we had you on the stand for an hour, but you're not sweating.
Yeah, that was that position right there.
He handled it. But we have one more question though. But then we got this a lot when you were talking.
Okay.
A lot of teachers asked about the rationale behind Plan B Plus, and can you just speak to that a little bit, because that question came up many times as you were talking.
Well, so no, thank you for lifting that up, Langston. So essentially, the Plan B Plus remote is really the remote option. And the only thing that's different is that students in small groups will rotate in on a 3 to 4 day basis during those first 2 weeks. So not all of the students will be in school for the entire 2 weeks, but they will be there for most of them will be in person for 3 days. And there are a few students who will be there for 4 days. But the goal really is to make sure that we're setting all of our kids up for success. And I think back to those students we did not have contact with in the fall because we weren't able to properly prepare and set expectations so that when they went to a full remote environment, they could be successful, make sure they had their devices, they had all of the tools that they need. Of course, this will be different, as I alluded to earlier, from an attendance. We will take attendance. There will be grading taking place. So I want to set those expectations because we're really going to need our families who have been great and they've been very patient and understanding. But we're really going to need our families to join us in this effort to make sure that the expectations are being met in terms of attendance and grading. And I know there was, we relaxed that last spring because we were in a mindset of do no harm to our students. And so this year is going to be a little bit different in that regard in terms of grading and attendance. And so just really implore that our families continue to join us in this effort because I am not naive enough to think that we can do this alone. It is going to take all of us, staff, it's going to take our students, it's going to take our families, it's going to take our community at large for us and our children to be successful this upcoming school year.
Well, Ernest, again, thanks for coming on, man. We talked about communication. Anytime you want to communicate with the public, you got a seat on Talking Preps, man. Anytime.
Well, I'll be back when you all extend the next invite. I'll be happy to be back.
No doubt. I think his Plan B Plus really works. So I think building those relationships with students, they understand expectations a little more when they see their teacher in person for those 2 weeks. We just got to be real protective while we do it. And I know that some people don't feel safe. They're not going to do it. They're going to do the all remote. But I think that choice was really good. One quick question for you, though. Is it true? Are you related to Jennifer Hudson?
How did I know that might come up, right?
For me.
Yes. I am related to Jennifer Hudson. Yes, sir.
So you can sing.
Look, I knew that was coming up as well. Don't
for
you look? No. If you want to maintain your viewership,
I thought it was going to say job.
You would not ask me to hit any notes whatsoever. So we all have different talents, and singing is not one of mine.
All right. Ernest, thanks again, man. We'll definitely give you another invite to have you on later on. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate it very much. Y'all take care. Be safe.
Thank you. All right. There's Earnest Winston, the superintendent CMS schools right there. Every week on Talking Preps, we got big time guests. That's one of the biggest ones we've had. Got to bring in my girl, Kenzie McLean. How you doing, Kenzie McLean?
Good. How are you?
So you were at a tennis match this weekend last week between two of our co-hosts. They keep talking about how they want to play each other in something. Now, we're not going to give away what happened, but let's just take a look at round one.
We are here in what is basically the equivalent of Wimbledon.
I'm going to dominate this. I mean, built for glory. You got to come. It's like stretching, don't even need it. It's like a cat out of the jungle about to go take the prey. And, dominate this set and then win the next set and then go eat good. Because when you win, the meal's going to taste a lot better.
Victory meal.
No doubt. We going sizzling. We going sizzling.
Looks like it's about to go down.
Yeah, it's going to go down all right. Either me, my leg, or him, one of the two.
What'd you think, Kenzie, right there in that first set?
I mean, the match did not disappoint. Like I said, basically Wimbledon. They coordinated outfits. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but definitely the match did not disappoint. You got to stay tuned to see how it ends.
Did you see that double backhand right there? That toss. It looked like Nadal. Like Nadal.
It was great.
All right, let's see the second set.
With the match of the century's winner, Sam. Sam, how do you think today went?
Went really good. I'm gonna be eating good today. We going sizzling, like I said, and I was impressed though. Chris, he brought his A game. Like he was hitting lefties. He had double forehands.
He did have double forehands.
It was a little tricky to figure out his spin.
Chris, how do you feel?
Man, I feel great. To go the distance, that was my final game was the best one. Final set, it was great. Hey, Talking Preps crew, I know I'm a gracious loser. Sam beat me, but I will say this: there will be a rematch.
That's fine. He can get all the rematches he wants. Football, basketball, trampoline, it doesn't matter.
I'm feeling the trampoline.
Trampoline.
That's good stuff. I didn't know my dancing skills were struggling. I've been out of the club a long time. They were struggling a little bit. You recently had another interview with a Myers Park kid. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I talked a little to Tom Dell, who was on last week. He had a little bit of technical difficulties. Got to talk to him about his recent commitment to Old Dominion, which is huge, and how he thought the protest went and how recruiting during a pandemic is because it's such a weird time.
Okay.
Get down, ball.
All right, so we're here with Taj Yell of Myers Park. Taj, how do you think the protest went?
I think it went really well. I feel like we got our voices heard. We had a good support from the community that come out. Many different schools came out. So yeah, I really think it went well.
How's recruiting been during the COVID-19 period?
It's been a lot different. I can say you know, dealing with COVID, we haven't been able to like visit schools as much. Haven't been able to talk to a lot of coaches personally. So it's been a little iffy, but at the same time, you know, we still have to make that decision.
Now, what made you choose the school that you're getting ready to choose?
I'll say family atmosphere. You know, I got really close with the coaches. They treated me like, you know, they were like my uncles. And I just feel like it's like the best decision for me and for my future.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice talking to you, Todd.
Thank you.
That was pretty good. There it is. There's Chris right there, my man.
My man.
What did you say? Sorry.
I just said my man, talking back to Sam, but to Kinsey, I've just got to say it. Your work continues to impress. Your interviews and putting together our video, I mean, incredible effort. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank
You did a
you.
really good job. I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you.
I know one thing. All right, this is where Chris Hughes cannot be beat. We're going to go to Chris's corner.
You know, for an old guy, I was really happy with how I played. And Kinsey, you were out there to document it all. And then we say goodbye to Kinsey. For the record, I had an incredible left-hand shot. Probably put about 2 or 3 good ones in that game. You know, that was it. But, hey, anybody who has followed me over the past 15, 20 years covering high school athletics, high school football, has seen the stadium project that I've done. This past weekend's another weekend where I just went all across to the state. This time I went all the way to Western North Carolina, taking some pictures, some newer pictures. You know, I've been to every high school in the state to this point. Just want to go out, get some new photos, put some stuff out on social media for the fans to see. I love putting my mark and just giving you guys an insight into the communities. I think each small community is what makes high school football so cool, and it allows you to see what other schools have. I know sometimes the only time you get out of your area is maybe during the playoffs or every now and then a pretty cool non-conference game. But I thought it's a really cool idea to give you guys that glimpse into other communities and really what makes football in their community special. And I kind of want to segue that into this conversation we had with Earnest Winston. I love the question that Dale brought up regarding Mallard Creek and the facilities they just had and the disparity of athletic facilities in North Carolina or in CMS. But also, I'd like to bring it up in North Carolina as well. There are some school systems that just have and there's no way to cookie code atrocious facilities. And you know, I would love to see that gap between the haves and the have-nots in the state of North Carolina kind of be bridged as well, just to give some of these other student athletes a chance to play on some great turf fields, or not even turf. I'm not talking about artificial turf. I'm just talking about great grass without the fear of being injured. There's some stadiums in eastern North Carolina, the northeastern quadrant, that I know coaches who say they try to get up as big as they can early so they can take it easy and hopefully not get a player injured towards the end of that game. So, you know, that's just kind of my thing. I want to make sure that we have all of our school systems are doing everything they possibly can to make it a level playing field, pardon the pun, talking about the stadiums, and just do something great for the student athletes. Because, you know, I mention this so often, other states, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma. Gosh, you should see the stadiums in Oklahoma. I was on a road trip in Ohio earlier this year. They thrive off of athletics. They have figured out the magic formula to where, hey, let's not keep football. Let's not suffocate football from having the needs that they have and not giving them the resources they need. Let's provide an overabundance of resources to football so it can give opportunity to these young men. And oh, by the way, you know, if you're a fan of tennis or your child's a swimmer, or maybe they don't play football and you don't understand that, you know, why football gets all the money a lot of times, football will drive the train, the engine to give all of these sports of an abundance of resources if you give it an opportunity to. And again, I think that goes back to why I do the stadium project, to give everyone a glimpse into what the other schools in North Carolina has. So hopefully maybe your school system, your county commissioners, your school board, your board of education will say, hey, we really need to do better. We need to give our kids something too. So guys, that's what I've got for the Chris's Corner this week. I hope it wasn't too much of a rant, but you know, followed me for a long time knows that I get really worked up and really fired up about these stadiums and wanting to make sure that every kid in North Carolina has something great to call their own.
Absolutely, Chris. I love that, man. I love your passion. You put more miles in your car than anybody, I think, in North Carolina. You've seen every inch of this state, and it's amazing the work that you do. One thing that we have been hearing, though, Chris, is a lot of kids are saying if North Carolina doesn't play football, I'm going to go to South Carolina to play football. Hearing that a lot. I talked to Kings Mountain's Kobe Paysor this week. He's a top 20 recruit going to North Carolina. He put on Twitter that if there's no North Carolina football, I'm going. Let's hear what he had to say. All right, we're here with Kobe Paysor of Kings Mountain High School. I noticed you put on Twitter last week that if there's no North Carolina football season, you're going to transfer. What led you to do that?
Honestly, I just want to play my senior year, and with all this stuff going on, I don't know if that's going to be able to happen. And I seen South Carolina, they were talking about they're going to be able to play. So I was thinking about just moving to South Carolina. Well, not moving. I was still going to stay in the same location, but just transfer. Me and my dad's already talked about it. I mean, but I don't know where I'm going to go yet.
Do you feel confident they're going to play? Because they may not play either.
Well, I don't even know if they're going to be able to play because I had a few people DM me on Twitter talking about they don't know if they're going to be able to play or not. And, I mean, if they don't play, I guess I'm going to just head up to Chapel Hill early.
So if North Carolina was to play in the spring, you wouldn't come back for that?
No, sir. I'm an early grad.
How many kids are like you? How many kids are you talking to that are saying, you know, I'm thinking about transferring or I'm just going to go to school early? Well, how many people are saying that?
I've had a few people come up to me and say that. Like a few people in the county from other schools talking about they moving to South Carolina. I was like, dang, I didn't know I impacted that many people.
How frustrating is it not to know, you know, when we might, if we might? I mean, what do you want to know?
I just want to know if we're gonna be able to play or not. I mean, if we don't, then that's fine with me. I'm just gonna head up. If we do, then I'm happy.
Well, there you go, guys. That's one of the best football players in North Carolina, guys. He's saying, no football, I'm out. What do you think, Grace?
Again, I think it's a situation where, and I've said it before, a lot of these 2021 guys are a different breed. I mean, these guys prioritize, their careers, wanting to play football and putting themselves in the best position. Some may view it a little differently, that they may not be quote unquote team first guys, but with a lot of the things these kids have had to deal with, putting yourself in a position to where you can kind of maximize your career and your talents. I mean, I think that's a great decision. And I'm not surprised.
Now, we talked with Ernest Winston about a gap year. How many people do you think Grice would want to come back next year if they could? Even if it was like you had to take classes in Central Piedmont, you can only take one class on campus because obviously we know the school building is going to be really, really compacted.
I mean, I think especially, we look at this class, I mean, you have some really great talent. And anytime you have a class with really great talent, you have a lot of kind of under the radar guys that aren't getting looked at. I mean, so you have your class of, your group, which is your Will Shipleys, your Evan Pryors, your Kobe Pacers, guys like that. But you have a lot of under the radar guys that maybe are all conference guys, maybe will participate, if we have it in the Queen City Senior Bowl, that don't have the offer and are really dependent on those senior years, or some guys with, offers that maybe below where their actual talent base is, but a lot of these schools are depending on these senior years. I know at Hopewell we have, I think, 23 seniors this year, and quite a few of those guys who do have some of the film are banking on that senior year in order to kind of get those offers or get some of the offers that I think and others think they deserve.
So for every 100 kids, how many do you think could come back next year or want to come back? Every 100, 5, 10?
That would want to come back. I mean, I would think, talking about football players, I mean, I think you'd figure half of a class would at least want to come back. I mean, I figure if we've got 23, I would think 10 to 12 of our guys would want to come back to improve their quote unquote draft stock, if you will.
Grind, same thing over there?
Yeah, I think so. I think that definitely could be a possibility because you have those tweeners, the guys that already have big time offers, Power 5, Division I offers. I mean, they should go on to college because they already done the pinnacle of what they're going to get offer wise.
Yeah.
Now, there's someone like borderline, like he's saying, like an all-conference player that's a hard worker. He's putting a lot of grind in the last year. No one's seen that he's gained 2 inches and 20 pounds and got muscles and he can fly around. He wants to show what he can do. So if he's not able to do it, then I think that would be a cool thing, that if they're able to take some type of education at CPCC or something like that, as long as they show that they're enrolled somewhere, they're allowed to play their sport in the fall, winter, or spring if they are missing that sport. That'd be an interesting thing to do.
Now, I know I'm preempting the most popular segment of the show, but should we have a cutoff? You shouldn't be 20 playing high school. Should it just be still, if you fall in the age range 19, you can't turn 19 before September 1, are you still older than that?
Keep it the same way, but just add that year into it. If they were going to be eligible this year, then they're able to play next year. And
no matter how old they are?
It doesn't matter. Because then you start getting into
like someone who would benefit.
I don't know about a 20-year-old playing high school football. You got a 20-year-old guy playing a 14-year-old guy. I think if you're 19 after September 1st, you can still fit in the age range. I'm cool with it. I don't know about the 20.
As long as you're under 20, I mean, I think that's fine.
That's above my pay grade. But hold on, it's time. I've been waiting because there's a question here I really want to hear. Drop your theme music. All right, I'm going to put up the question. I'm out, and Sam wanted to have a little post-question banter this week, so you guys can have a little banter.
Always changing the rules, man. Come on, always twerking the rules.
Changing the rules. Here we go. I'm out. Sam, you go first.
All right, I got you. I don't think that this would work in North Carolina. The issue with this is, we only have 4 classes, but we could have AA, single A, stuff like that. The problem is there's too many North Carolina schools that actually play outside of their classification. Like you're talking about Weddington playing Vance. Those type of games wouldn't take place. I just think that it's too many things to maneuver to have smaller classes play and then having the like 4A sitting out or the 4 AA sitting out. There'll be a lot of upset people. I just think if no one's able to play, then no one's able to play. If everyone's able to play, everyone's able to play. I don't think that model would work.
I mean, I think you could do it here. Again, you talk about, with us having 4 classifications, you talk about those 3A and 4A schools being the schools that play in the spring. Again, we talk about any issues that pertain to North Carolina. It's always Fayetteville, Charlotte, Piedmont Triad area, Raleigh, Durham, which are primary your 3A, 3AA, and 4 single A and 4 AA schools. Those schools oftentimes dictate whether it be COVID cases are going to be similar. Football, you have those 3A schools playing those 4A schools. So I think it would be appropriate. You could have the 1A, 2A schools, especially in this kind of situation, that are way out, way west near Manio, way near the mountains, or those schools near Dare, like those schools could be the ones that participate in the fall than the bigger schools, especially now with more time, or even in the future. Those big time games will be amazing in the spring and pique the interest of a lot of these colleges.
It's not going to happen because all of a sudden these kids that are saying they're going to South Carolina, they're going to end up going to those 1A, 2A schools. And then they're going to end up trying to play. Now they're not going to be 2A schools anymore. They're going to be in 3A schools. You see what I'm saying? It'd be a whole different ballgame. I just think there's too many moving parts. It wouldn't work. Really,
you can split it. I mean, I think it's just one of those things where you have a natural delineation if you're talking 3 and 4. You don't have too many 2A schools that are playing up in that regard. Again, I think that's the situation. While it's new and it's a little different, we could make it work. You just would have to put some different rules in there to make sure it's good.
Texas always comes up with something crazy. You can't trust Texas all the time.
You can't, though. But again, I think there are innovators in a lot of things. Hey, that's where we got throwing the ball from down there. It seemed to work pretty good my way.
All right, you're up first on this one, my man.
All right, clearly we can take the F out. As grinders, you'll see starting this year, the IMEC is the best conference in CMS. So we know that. There's no point in arguing that. We don't want to agree on the show. I hate agreeing with you personally. What's next? So we got the Southwestern Conference, or the South. I call it the SOMEC. So you have those 2 conferences as far as the best. In my opinion, clearly, we like the IMEC because of competitiveness. We like the IMEC because of great players. We like the IMEC because every game can be tough. So clearly, the answer must be the SOMEC. As you look in the last 3 years, and of course, this brings it back to your period. 5 of the 7 teams in the conference have either finished first or second. You look at, of course, Harding finishing first 3 years ago, Coach Griner. You look, last year at, or was it last year at Ardrey Kell winning? Then the year before, actually, Providence was able to take over and win the conference. Probably one of the craziest years you've had. Another thing when you talk about players within that conference, for every Drake May you can point out, I can look at a Jared Joseph from Ardrey Kell who had a fantastic year. For every Jamal Worthy at Butler you point out, I can point out Cam Smith who had 2,000 total yards. While you may get more coverage over there within, the Southwestern Conference, it's really just a Myers Park and Butler show. The SoutMec Conference is the most competitive conference. Every team in there has the opportunity. And now with the relaxed rules regarding eligibility, a lot of those schools are going to be a lot more competitive this year in the SoutMec Conference.
Yeah. The only thing I agree with you is the IMEC is definitely the best conference in CMS. It's really not that close, to be honest with you. But on your other regard, even though I was in the SoMec, it used to be good when we won the championship.
When you were there, I got you.
But the problem is this though: the talent of the overall school, like those schools are not competing very far into the playoffs. So I don't think the talent and like you said, Drake May. Every Drake May, there's a whole different level. That's a whole different level than the guy you're mentioning. Do you see what I'm saying? In my opinion. And you left out Hickory Ridge too. Jupiter Wilson doing a pretty daggone good job. Porter Ridge has always done fairly well. I think if you put Porter Ridge in that other conference, then they can compete and maybe win that conference.
No way. They're not better than Ardrey Kell. West Meck is always athletic. Again, you talk about teams that went far in the playoffs. Myers Park's the only team to win, right? Did Hickory Ridge win one game? I think they lost to Glenn in the first round. Yeah, they lost to Glenn in the first round.
Second round, I get it.
They got a bye and then lost, right? They got a bye that week, yeah. So no one
who else made it out in the SoMec out of the first round?
None of the 4 AA teams made it all. But they're more 4 AA teams though. So that's the same situation.
Discussion right there.
But it doesn't. When you talk about more competitiveness, that's it.
It doesn't say competitiveness. It doesn't say competitiveness. All right,
but that's what makes the IMEC great is you'll find out. You can't just walk in and go here and win games in the IMEC. But you're right about the IMEC.
Let's talk about a real fight. Roy Jones versus Mike Tyson. I don't even know why this is even a fight. Mike Tyson is a killer. I mean, he like, hey man, I don't know. I'm just a warrior. I'm a killer. I'm
That's your impression?
No, it's a little bad. Little bad. But it's not even going to be close. Mike Tyson is he's an evil person. And Roy Jones, ever since he's gotten knocked out, now he was one of the greatest of all times. Don't get me wrong. But once he started getting knocked out, he just fell off. His confidence fell off. Mike Tyson never lost his confidence in a way outside of Buster Douglas after that, and then Evander Holyfield. But he still always has some type of ability to have that fear factor with that one knockout power. And I think it's going to go – no one's going to go the distance with their age. So why not take the guy that has higher knockout power, Mike Tyson? Easy.
Do you know who actually has won 4 of their last 5 and who's actually lost the last 2 fights that they've had? Roy Jones has won 4 of his last 5 fights. Do you know the last time Mike Tyson fought?
You're talking about different weight classes.
15 years ago. Roy Jones has fought heavyweight before. He was light heavyweight. Again, he's been the one that can do it in every class. 6, 7 weight classes. Again, we talk about a guy who hasn't fought in 15 years, and we want to get them out there. Again, it looks good when he can punch the bag 2 or 3 times. He's got knockout power, but the speed and the amount of stamina it's going to take for a guy that hasn't been in the ring in 15 years, he's not going to be able to make it far. And once that power goes away, Roy Jones is going to win on points.
No, they're not going to go the distance. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'll bet you a side bet that they don't go the distance. There's no way.
Because they're old. That's like you getting in the ring. You're not going to rounds.
Are they going 5 rounds? Because they're 5.
They'll go 5.
All right.
They'll go 5 for sure.
See, Chris Hughes even says it right.
4 single A. If I wasn't in 4 single A, I'd talk junk about 4 single A. That's like 4 double A.
What are you talking that year? We won the state championship. We beat Vance. We beat a lot of big time people. Porter Ridge was amazing that year. Oh, by the way, each Forsyth that went back-to-back years, we beat them as well. You know what I'm saying?
Forsyth wouldn't be in the top 5 in the 4 AA. Get out of here with that. They have a great program. The Lyles kids are great QB, but it's not 4 AA. It's different.
I didn't say it was 4 AA, but that year it was pretty daggone good. Like for you to say that Scotland County wasn't one of the best.
I didn't say they weren't one of the best. They didn't have Zamir White when you played them. If they have Zamir White, I don't know if you'd be on here like this. I don't know if you'd be on here if they had Zamir White playing.
I let them have a healthy Zamir White easily if I get my 3 players. I had Conference Player of the Year defensively that didn't play the last 3 games. You had Kavars Crouch, who was banged up going into the game really bad.
Well, you ran him 30 times. That's not our problem.
And then our went to Liberty, didn't play. Give me those guys, and they can have
Georgia. Zamir White went to Georgia. His nickname is Zeus. If Zamir White's in that game, you can be still, you can go out there right about no respect.
Gary, didn't they go over this last week?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know
about all this stuff. But again, before we go forever, we're getting a little late here, so we know it's time for the 2-minute warning. I gave Sam a beating like I told him I would pre-show. Now it's happened. So Gary, Dale, getting late. 2-minute warning. Take it away, guys.
Porter Ridge is good, by the way.
Is too.
Yeah. They talked a little bit about the splitting of the spring and fall and with the different classifications. What if counties decided to do that? Do you think that because we know that smaller counties are probably going to have less cases, et cetera. You think that maybe that's a possibility that they could go in the fall and then the bigger counties play in the spring?
I think it depends on what role the North Carolina High School Athletic Association wants to play. I think their role would have to be factored into it. It's in their best interest that we have state playoffs. And so if you have the bigger systems choosing to go in the spring as opposed to the fall, do those systems in turn decide, well, we'll play county championships or city championships versus going to the state? I don't know whether the state would have jurisdiction over that. I think they would like to have jurisdiction over it because then they get a cut of the gate. But you have to ask yourself, is there going to even be a gate? What is the attendance going to be? So I think it's too many difficulties in that. I think ultimately the state is going to make their decisions based on the Big Five. That's CMS, that's Wake County, Guilford, Forsyth, and Cumberland County.
I think either proposal is very difficult to actually implement because you do have some counties that have 2A and 3A, for example, schools within that particular county. So if anything makes more sense to me, it makes more sense to do it up by classification. And I think even that might be very difficult. I think if schools went to just saying this county's going to play and this, we're going to play, we're not going to play, I believe, like you mentioned, we'll see county championships and not state championships. It's too big of a puzzle, I think, to begin to try to put together.
Well, Dale, do you think if they say fall football is too difficult based on the science and the numbers of COVID, that they could substitute 7-on-7 in the fall season as and continue to allow fall workouts as opposed to having a fall season?
Yeah, so I guess what we're looking at there is maybe the fact that we don't have contact, and that makes it more able to play. I think that's something that should be looked at. If maybe not looked at, should already be implemented. It would give those kids that opportunity. I think the biggest thing that we, or a lot of people I think understand, is that the kids getting together, being with each other, that camaraderie and the competitiveness and the fight and the win and all of that comes together with playing a sport, that could still continue on with 7-on-7. So certainly if the science says, well, you can do this, but you can't have the contact. So if the science said you could play soccer as an example, then we could certainly play 7-on-7. So I think it's something I'd like to see laid down as a plan that maybe we can have sports, but we can't have football because it's contact. But we can have 7-on-7. So I like that idea.
And Dale, I would think that in the best interest of the athletes, that they should go ahead and let them start working out. And let's figure out how it's going to be. Are the numbers going to go up? You know, if we find that through workouts in August that teams are coming down with cases, that you have multiple players, 5, 6, 7 kids, 2 or 3 coaches, then that tells the state what they need to do September the 1st. If they're not doing anything right now, then when September the 1st comes, then how are we going to know if we're capable of having a fall season if we haven't already tried to experiment with it during these workouts?
Yeah, I got to respond to that because I agree with you 100% that we should have been going through workouts and see what that coming together actually does. It gives an opportunity. Hate to say experiment, but how are we going to know? Right now, we're just going to say numbers look good, so let's go. I agree with you. I think you know that if all the parents and the coaches could get together and vote, and we know by the players, they went out and protested last week, they want to play. So the question here is, if they say we should go forward, what do you think that really tells us? Should we go forward? What should we do?
Well, it kind of goes back to the last question we answered. I think we should go forward as far as the workouts. And I think, you kind of phase in the workouts where you go with the pod system and 25 kids per workout. And if that goes well over, say, a 10-day period, then you add to it until you get to a full team. And by the time September the 1st comes, you have numbers for the state to look at. You have high school numbers to look at. You have teenage numbers to look at, as opposed to looking at just the numbers of the general population. Because we know that athletes and young people, when it comes to this disease, react to it differently than the general population does. So, but if you don't have any numbers to go by, then I don't think you're making an informed decision by waiting until September the 1st.
I agree. I think that, first of all, I'm a believer in choice. And if the community says, let's do something, the community should have that ability to do that. We do have the ability to test, to see. And I think we've already had, we've had discussion many times about how many people do we think, if kids were to be tested right now, how many players on the team would come up and test positive? And we think that number is probably fairly high to begin with, and those kids are still doing their thing. So I would, if a community wants to do it and they're all willing to accept the risk, and I think they should be able to phase in with testing and do this. And then I don't like this wait. We're going to do it if the numbers are right. And we asked about the metrics, and we didn't really get they don't have an answer on that obviously right now. But it's easier to stop something than it is to start something late. And I think we should go on. I think we should have already been doing the optional workouts. And then if we see a problem, then we can stop it.
Well, we just heard from Kobe Pacer in an earlier segment about going to South Carolina and playing. And we've even heard of a story where a federal judge would not allow an inmate to transfer his sentence out of New Jersey down to South Carolina because he said South Carolina is more dangerous than it is in New Jersey. So what does that mean for high school football when you have kids that want to leave one state to go to another state?
Yeah, so just when you're asking that question, that particular situation, not that situation, but the situation of the Northeast in here is impacting me with my work. I can't travel up to Pennsylvania right now. I have to go into a 2-week quarantine. So they do feel that we have a lot higher instances down here of issues. I understand the want to play, especially those kids that may be fringe borderline and think that this is going to be their only opportunity to maybe get that off, or at least maybe get a D2 ride. And so they're going to want to play. But the situation in South Carolina is not much different than it is here. And while they may try to jump in to play, they're still going to ultimately, I think, face the same kind of problem that we're seeing here. So, you make that move, I think it's a gamble that's not in your favor.
Yeah. Because South Carolina could easily shut it down just like North Carolina could.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, you guys are laughing. I mean, I know you guys have a serious conversation, but I'm looking at Sam in the green room with this 1947 hat. What's up with the hat, Sam?
Because he back gonna try me with the Kavaris Krause 30-time running thing. I'm just gonna throw him throwback. I'm gonna go a little helmet for him real quick just because he tries.
That's about right. It fits for the offense. That's what I'm saying. It's all good. It works.
I'm just laughing. Sam sitting back with this thing on his head. I want to ask you guys about the Virginia plan. We're talking about plans. Virginia put out their plan today. And this was something that Langston's been advocating about, moving everything to the spring if we couldn't move some of the spring sports to the fall. But they're kind of copying South Carolina. Grice, you texted out today. You love this plan. I want to hear from everybody. There's the plan. What are your thoughts? Grice, you talk first.
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think, I've been an advocate for fall from the beginning, but if we don't have that possibility and we're in a situation, and especially now as we've kicked the can down the road this far, I think that's a great alternative to what, the original plan was going to be. And frankly, it's a plan. It's been voted on, the options were presented, and everyone is aware of what's going to happen before we actually get going. I applaud Virginia for taking that initiative, and I hope North Carolina looks to do the same soon.
Chris, what do you think?
Well, like Grice said, I at least applaud them for having a plan and taking an initiative. I listened to Dale speak, and, I would love to see us have the option to play if we can begin practices September 1st and everything clears up, the numbers look right. Football is supposed to be played in the fall, and that's when I want to see it. I think we all do. But given the chance or the choice of football in the spring, in the winter, or no football at all, I think we'll all hold hands and agree to watch football whenever it's played. But I just hope that it can still somehow or the other be salvaged late September, early October.
Absolutely. Well, Gary put out another plan today from his executive desk from Washington, D.C. Richmond Plan 2.5. Well, wrong one. Richmond Plan 2.5. So I want to give everybody a chance to take a look at Richmond Plan 2.5, and then we're going to let the man, Senator Richmond, explain his plan to the public.
Well, I think it's, as we were saying, Virginia has certainty. South Carolina has certainty. CMS and some surrounding counties don't have any certainty. And I think what they need to do to help them make a better informed decision is to go ahead and start working out. Now, I also think they need to test. And we've had Heart of a Champion in Charlotte for, I'm not sure how many years, but where all the schools get together and they go to Atrium Health and the kids get a physical for the upcoming season. Now, of course, you can't put them on buses right now and gather all those people in one place, but I would like to see some health organization, I guess Atrium, since they are affiliated with Cabarrus County and CMS, I would like to see them set up 3 testing sites. And any kid that wants to participate in fall athletics, go get tested. And they would have a 2-day window to go. That's all coaches as well. Once the test results in, of course, one would go to the health department. You send one to the athletic department to let them know who is positive and who's negative. And any kid that's negative is eligible to go start fall workouts. Any kid that comes after the workout date would have to go get their own test within, and the test results would have to be brought back to the school within 48 hours. And then from that point, start your workouts. And Cabarrus County, CMS, they've all had their training. Then you let that training take over for the fall workouts. And based on how that works out, now you have a more informed decision based on data than you would have than just waiting until September the 1st.
Yeah. Well, I think that CMS should let kids work out. I was interested to hear Ernest's answer. I thought he was really on point with a lot of things he said. You know, he took a lot of things head on. Some of the things I know that people want direct answers on, he just can't give them. And I get that. I understand. But the state association is really trying to collect. I'm coming down. The state association is really trying to collect information on what everybody's doing in terms of returning to school. And then I believe they're going to try to put out a plan. As one of you guys asked earlier, Raleigh and Charlotte have put together a study. They looked at like half of the LEAs in the state. I think there's 115 of them. And 51% are going remote learning, and including all the big ones. So it looks like most everybody's going remote learning. If you heard Ernest, he didn't seem 1,000% certain that they were going to allow sports on a remote learning environment. So it's really going to be interesting to see. And Chris is shaking his head. Go ahead, Chris. What do you think?
No, he said that will be a challenge. You know, that goes back to what he said. So I don't see it either. I mean, and it goes back to what I said weeks and weeks and weeks ago, because we continuously have this cyclical conversation, is that from a liability and legal standpoint, that's where I see my concerns in transportation and logistics and so on and so forth. But just to kind of go back on what Gary said, that's the best thing I've heard. And I had not heard that in any paper, any articles, any literature that I've read, where, you know, students go and get their physical paid for a lot of times by the local health department or hospital, or maybe a local doctor in some of these small communities. Why not have them go line up and get their COVID testing? And you know, right then and there, you've got a tangible piece of paper to look at. Hey, he can practice. Hey, she can practice. Or hey, they've got a quarantine for 14 days. That's a great plan, Gary.
Dale, go ahead. What was on your mind, Dale?
Yeah, so the problem that bothers me is that Gary has a plan and CMS doesn't. And I appreciate the answers that Ernest gave us, but they don't have a plan. They don't even know the metric right now that's going to trigger a go, no go. I think it's an awesome idea to, well, you know what? Let's go have the kids tested, and the ones that are positive, you know, they got to go do their quarantine thing. And all the kids that are negative can then, and coaches can now go and start their their workouts. And then
is it CMS though, Dale? Is it more the state? I mean, CMS can allow the kids to work out, which I think all of us think they should do. But yeah, don't they have to wait for the Q Tucker's crew to say this is what we're doing? Because CMS can't say, I'm not. Go ahead, Chris.
It's optional workouts right now.
Well, I mean, that's optional right now. I mean, the LEAs, the NCHSAA has pretty much put the LEAs in control of their own destiny, at least until that September 1st start date for official practices. So I think that in terms of right now, right here, these school systems can control their own destiny, at least in terms of who plays and who doesn't.
That's right.
No, but what I'm saying is CMS should allow them to work out, but what can CMS do beyond letting Grice and Sam work out? What else can they do? They can't say we're going to play sports on September 1 because the state has to do that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think CMS, like Ernest said pretty clearly, he says it's not always good to be first. Like, there's a lot of people with plans out there, and I know it sounds good to have something in concrete, but there's too many variables that they have to evaluate and to be able to make better decisions. They just don't want to say something and make the wrong decision. I think that's what they're more afraid of. But and I understand that.
Reading between the lines, it just sounds to me like they're not going to let you guys go back to practice until the governor moves into a different phase. That's kind of what I took from that tonight.
I wish that we had a plan on the aspect of, kind of like the Virginia plan, where we're able to have sports maybe shortened but starting in December or whatever they think would be enough time to get our bearings.
Governor Richmond, somebody says it takes too long to get the test back to make your plan effective. What do you say? I had a test last Thursday. I got the results back on Saturday.
Yeah,
I think when you have a large organization like CMS who's contracted out to one of the health organizations, I think they will get it back within 48 hours. I mean, the pros, they're getting theirs back within 48 hours.
Yeah.
So I think individually, when you go on your own to get a test is where the delays are. But if you just have one particular group, in this case, we're talking about CMS athletes or Cabarrus County athletes, then I think you would find you get the results back a lot faster.
I'm getting a lot of these comments that CMS will keep their heads in the sand. I just want to be clear what I'm saying. I'm saying that CMS should allow the coaches to work out, but I don't know what else they can do beyond that until they hear from the state. Raleigh can't do anything else other than allow kids to work out, which they're not doing. So I don't know what else CMS really can do. I just want to make that very clear because a lot of people feel like CMS is driving this. They're not driving this anything. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're not driving this anything beyond not allowing kids to work out, which I think they should do.
Yeah, right. And I think they're more worried about figuring out the 2 weeks of getting those, students in schools for the 2 weeks, because there's going to be a lot of kids that show up that do have the coronavirus. You see what I'm saying? That no one's being tested to come there. So they're really trying to figure out that. I think literally sports, and I understand that right now, even though I'm a football coach and I can't wait to be with my guys. I want to be able to play Hopewell very end, late in the year because of Grice, wearing my tail.
I'm trying to make you laugh, Sam. Somebody's talking about your tennis attire. But all that neon you had on.
I do. I look like Agassi with that backhand. I ain't gonna lie a little bit.
No. That's not what he said.
You ever try me with the ping pong comment, dude? I'm telling you, look, football, basketball, trampoline, ping pong, basketball. It don't matter. This whole
serious question. Same caller. What do you guys think? How long will it take to get kids ready to play? Coach Grice, Coach Griner, you guys on the front lines. How long would it take
to get ready to play?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any chance that we do that right now. It's like a loaded question right there. How long do we think kids will get ready?
Let's say they said that.
I mean,
yeah.
Would you need
you give me 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks would be appropriate. Yeah. I mean, you figure you need you get the 10 days or so to, the acclimatization period, and then you're able to have the scrimmage and get going. I think a 3 week period with the guys will be in shape, ready to go, and I think the quality of football will be fine. That's always what I worry about whenever they talk about, opening and then proceeding to start a game. I want to play football, but I don't want to see poor quality football, especially in such an important year when you just have guys trying to hurry up and get this done. And I think that's where it's kind of shifted my philosophy to say, if we're going to make this a rush job and not give kids adequate time to prepare and be at their highest level or somewhere close, let's go ahead and push this to where we have adequate time to do so.
I agree.
It's the quality of injury, or I'm sorry.
Well, I think that plays into it. Quality, including, I don't want to see Weddington advance and Will Shipley's out with the hamstring strain, Power Eccles is out, or Austin Greer's not playing. Like that doesn't help or make it good for anybody.
Hey, back in the day, didn't they start on August 1 and play August 29th and everybody was good? I mean, we
also outside a lot.
7 all summer.
When I played,
you need a legit 3 weeks though, especially someone that's like. There's a lot of coaches out there that haven't even met their guys, like similar to myself.
Name tag on. Hi, I'm Sam Garner.
There's a lot to get done, but 3 weeks. I think we could definitely get some game ready. It won't be polished, but
I'm gonna lay a guess. You're gonna be out first week of August. I'm just gonna guess first week of August. It looks like our numbers are kind of stabilizing. I think we're gonna move to a different phase. I'm gonna say first week of August. You'll be out there. We'll see.
You realize next week, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Wait. Second week.
You need to be showing the first coach.
Down the road a little bit. 2 weeks. Guys, great show tonight, man. Any final thoughts from Mr. Richmond? What you heard tonight from Mr. Winston, your buddy?
I think he's trying to keep it close to the vest. He doesn't want to get anybody's expectations too high. I think he's no different than any parent. They want what's best for the kids, but it's his job to do what's best for the educational side first, and athletics second. I think he understands, how bad the kids want it, and he wants to help them with it. But his primary goal is to get school open.
All right, Gary, you were in the school system forever and ever. Should we just be in Plan C and nobody goes to school the first 2 weeks? You could sign up for the virtual learning and not have to go to school the first 2 weeks, but should we just be in Plan C?
I didn't get a chance to ask him, but I thought, based on the studies that said that kids under 10 are not contagious, I thought they should open up the elementary schools. And then let the middle school and the high schools go remote.
Well, you could open up. You could have put some elementary school students in the bigger schools and socially distance them a great deal.
Yeah, and I thought that would have been the best plan. It would do two things. It would help with the psychological and sociological process with kids that age, but it also would take the daycare burden off of parents, because it's that age where parents have to find daycare for their kids. So they could have knocked out, two birds with one stone on just letting the elementary kids go back.
That's okay, but now you're an elementary school teacher. How in the world are you gonna get those kids to keep the mask in their face all day long and not, touch it and not touch their neighbor, not rub the saliva on somebody else? I just think, I love the idea, and I think you could social distance them in bigger schools, but I think it'd be really hard to keep those kids from doing all of those things.
Well, I never taught them that young, so I don't have an answer for that one.
Yeah.
My kindergarten rising first grader granddaughter is very good about wearing her mask.
Yeah.
But I don't know about all day. That'd be very difficult.
I'm saying, but what happens when you get like 10 of them together?
No.
That's the thing I think is difficult. But we have an experiment right across the border in Union County, because they're going to school once a week, so we kind of see how it goes for them. We had Andrew Houlihan on, the superintendent of Union County Schools, so that was good. All right, it's time for Sam's final thoughts. We're gonna wrap it up. Samuel.
I appreciate it. You guys gave me a little bit of hard time tonight, but I can take it. All right, Grace is getting really good at his communication skills as always. But Mackenzie, I really appreciate you being on there filming it. She had her own crew that showed up. Her brother was helping her film. She's pretty legit, and I can't wait to see what she has in store coming for us next week. Ernest, I really appreciate you coming on the show. You were very transparent. You did everything you could, explaining yourself as well as you could about the topics, and those were some tough questions. I mean, every question that came at him was pretty difficult, and I thought he handled it, with great poise. And I just love being on the show with you guys. Really appreciate it. We started this back with like an old throwback phone, me and Langston, a long time ago, and then we've grown up to this. So I can't wait to see what it has in the future.
Yeah, those first couple shows were rough, man. You were sitting on a brick wall, and the phone wouldn't work, and now we come a long way. Got a big old audience. You guys are down in South Carolina. People tell me they watch the show, and man, I can't wait to start playing football. We can talk about kids, man, and golly, there's so much stuff you want to talk about, and not have the same conversation every week. It's kind of getting old. I'm tired of talking about will they play, will they not play. But here you go, right here. Right there from Lee. People, I get so many comments like this a week, guys. Is watch the show. People who don't even live in Charlotte, live in small towns, and watch the show. We got to include some of those coaches and players. There's so much stuff that I want to do, and we just got to get to start playing football. We can have a lot of fun on here. We got Chris, the guru, the #1 football guy in the state of North Carolina, and we can't let him talk about football. That bothers me. But hopefully we'll have a chance to do that later on. But it's been a great show. Grace, you got any last thoughts before we hang up? You didn't talk a whole lot today.
No, I'm just excited, man. Ready to get to some football, man. Thank you.
All right, guys. We catch
Dale,
you.
I want to see you in ping pong for real.
Oh man,
Dale.
Man.
Chris was a man. He stepped up to the game. You know, he stepped up and he played. He's like, I want to play best 3 out of 5 sets.
All right, y'all got about a Patreon to see the after the show.